Welcome everyone. I hope you are safe, well, and continue to be kind wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this session exploring how businesses can put social sustainability in action. I am Jimmy Quinn, immediate past president of IOSH. For those of you who don't know me, my day job is as a senior health and safety manager for Multiplex. And I'm very excited today about this session as I am joined by two of my colleagues to look at how Multiplex has been developing into a socially sustainable business. For the past 4 months, the Catch the Wave campaign has really been gaining momentum. And as we continue exploring those all-important links between good IOSH and effective social sustainability. But as well as looking at why this is important, we want to showcase how it can be done by putting a spotlight on businesses that are already on that journey, detailing what they are doing, what they have learned, and where they are heading in the future. So I'll now introduce two people who I know well, Maria Fernandez Cachafeiro and Martin Wilshire. Maria is Head of Sustainability. Maria is hugely experienced in sustainability, having worked for Multiplex for several years in this area and having held similar roles prior to joining us. Martin is Health and Safety Director and has worked for Multiplex since 2015. He has worked in health and safety over the past 2 decades and was determined to effect a move towards social sustainability when he first joined. So, Maria and Martin, as immediate past president and voice of the IOSH membership, I cannot wait to sit on this side of things as you tell us just how we at Multiplex are successfully catching the wave with IOSH. So let's just go straight into some questions. Martin, as you mentioned, you joined Multiplex a little over 6 years ago, and you described the sustainability policy at that time were very much pointed toward the environment. Why did you want to see change? And bearing in mind the need for change, how did you go about implementing that?
Well, thanks, Jimmy. It's lovely to be on the Catch the Wave webinar. It's also lovely to be given the questions by yourself, obviously. Great to be with Maria today on this call. So to your question, your first question, when I joined Multiplex, we were in a period of enormous growth and very, very expedient growth as well. What we could see at that time was that because of that, we were very much focused towards health, safety and the environment. The push for change, as we started to calm down and come out of that extreme growth and started to come back under control as a business, it was a little bit like glitter and glue. We could shake off, you know, the things that we didn't need to worry about and focus on those things that we did in far more detail. And one of the things that struck us was, as a business, was that our focus was not sufficiently on people at the time. It was more to do with growth and, you know, profitability. I think that's fair to say. I think our focus on people has grown over the past five years or so. What we were seeing at the time, before we made that distinct change, was that we had enormous churn rates on our projects. And that can obviously hide a number of different socioeconomic factors around why people continue to move off, come onto projects and then move off very quickly after that. And cycling people through obviously doesn't give you an opportunity to try and embed any kind of culture. And at the same time, it depersonalizes the relationship between us as a managing contractor and our workforce. And at the end of the day, we can't do anything without them. We don't build projects without them. And therefore, it's very difficult for us to build a relationship with them in a way that actually gains that community momentum and that enjoyment actually overall of being at work and understanding where we need to push hard in areas to make the lives of the workforce better. So we had a very, very difficult task with embedding any kind of safety culture, and that needed to change. But also, you know, as we started to learn, as we started to move into this, and Maria will certainly tell you more about it, the ethical labour issues started to come to the fore, and they became far more prevalent and far more in focus for us than they perhaps might have been, you know, 10 years ago or so. So to answer the second part of your question, you know, implementing that change and that need for change, I think was was very much the focus of Steve Smith, who was then one of the directors for SHEC, who was in the Middle East at the time, who you know well, Jimmy, as well. Who, when he moved over to the UK, he brought his expertise with him, and he brought a member of his team, Jessica Verdon, with him, and they were very adept and very, very skilled and experienced in managing a directly employed labour force in the Middle East of roughly 4,000 strong, I believe. They were very, very skilled and practiced in managing the ethical labour issues around those 4,000 people, with significant experience in the modern slavery and ethical labour field. And they had mature management processes to audit and monitor labour practices as well. So that was really the first step before we then started to move into the overall push towards, delivering experiences and making it a great place to work that we'll talk about as we go through.
Thank you, Martin. And from yourself, Maria, looking at those same two questions, I mean, you would have had a massive input into that, or you'll be having a massive input into that, and understanding what you've done in previous roles. Where are you coming at it from?
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. I wanted to say thank you for the introduction. Very kind, and you're very pleased to be joining yourself and Martin in this in this webinar. Yeah, probably to the first question, on top of what Martin said, I would just say that when I joined Multiplex in 2014 as a sustainability manager in our white collar factory project, and as well as my environmental responsibilities, I was responsible for delivering on the Section 106 for the project. So this is a planning requirement that basically sets requirements that need to be delivered during construction for apprentices, local spend with small medium enterprises, percentage of people employed from the local area, and it's basically to support the area where the project is. At the time, so this was 8 years ago, we didn't have any community engagement dedicated professionals. So I think there was also a shift from focusing on environment to then community engagement. Then that became social value, and now is our full ESG strategy that has our environmental pillars, our social equity pillars, etc. So I can certainly tell you more about that later on.
Definitely getting our money's worth in Multiplex, having you on board, Maria.
Absolutely. And then to address the second question, I think Martin touched base briefly on our Middle East experience. So our Middle East business is different to this region, for example. And as we said, as Martin said, we had directly employed labor people working on our sites. So these were people who had been recruited abroad and moved to the Middle East, sometimes paid recruitment fees, living worker accommodation, etc. And so in the Middle East, we had significant experience in modern labor and ethical labor issues, and we had to take proactive action to make sure we had a system in place to address any issues within our workforce and our supply chain. So as Multiplex in the Middle East, we created our labor welfare principles, which were focused on improved living conditions on site amenities, timely wage payment, access to remedy and grievance resolution, and ethical recruitment practices. Excellent. We had a management process to audit and monitor labor practices, and that led to a similar ethical labor management system being implemented in the UK in 2019. So it was drawing from that expertise in an area where modern slavery had been more prevalent for a while. So like all the actions that we needed to take to make sure that as part of our requirements to report in the UK Modern Slavery Act, we were taking steps to tackle modern slavery within our supply chains.
Wonderful. I mean, as we talk about, everything that Multiplex does and everything we're doing now, and everything we have done since I joined around about 6 years ago after my sabbatical midterm, is that we're always about evolving and trying to create and lead. And as we know, in 2018, we were a founding member of the Building Responsibly steering group, and I believe it was still a vice chair on that. So in terms of working and collaborating with others, what are we continuing to do? Bearing in mind that you've talked now about, we're now sort of community engagement, social value, social equity. Who are we collaborating with to make it stronger, Maria?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as you mentioned, Building Responsibly, we are still co-chairs of Building Responsibly, and we were one of the 6 founding members back in 2018, and we helped co-drafting the Building Responsibly principles, which I think they've been now adopted by 15 engineering and construction companies around the world, as well as, I believe, 30 oil and gas companies. And they serve as a global standard on work and welfare for the construction industries. They also take into account their baseline, make sure that then you can adapt to the local and national requirements in terms of modern slavery. But we are also collaborating locally in the UK. We've signed the GLAA construction protocol, so the Gangmaster Labour Abuse Authority. The protocol is an agreement between the GLAA and signatory organizations within the construction industry to collaborate to eradicate modern slavery and labor exploitation within the supply chains. Main contractors, subcontractors, recruitment agencies, they are all part of the signatories. And this is because due to the complex nature of our supply chain, construction is a massive opportunity for exploitation to occur. And as part of this GLAA construction protocol, we had regular meetings, collaboration, initiatives. We also got intelligence from the government and from the industry about what was happening in terms of modern slavery. And one of the initiatives that I worked on was the construction protocol induction pack that is available for everyone to use, not just for signatories. And that included a few slides to be added to the induction, posters translated to several languages, and a toolbox talk on modern slavery. And it is for people to identify themselves as victims, but also identify others as victims. So initiatives like this, what they do is raise awareness, identify those who need support, and get them actually the help that they need.
Yeah.
And sorry, Jimmy.
No, sorry. I was just thinking there. I mean, there's a lot of information there, and one of the great things that that I was particularly impressed with when I joined Multiplex in the UK, as I'd been out in Multiplex for 3 years in the Middle East, was some of the initiatives that are going on. And there was a particular initiative that made me giggle, Martin, when I came to UK, about the barbershop at 22BG. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it started off as a very small thing, and as Maria's already talked about, the Section 106 agreement was a requirement on us to employ local labour, and particularly to look at apprenticeships. And I'd not long been been transferred onto the project to move safety up, health and safety up a notch, and I very quickly started to talk with the leadership team on the project about people, and about that they were looking at me saying, "No, Martin, we want you to talk about health and safety." And I said, "Yes, but you're missing the trick here. Health and safety is only as good as people's willingness to want to engage with it. So let's focus on the people, and then the health and safety will take care of itself. If you build the relationship with the people," and this is where we needed to start. So there was a conversation with Amy Dawson, the social sustainability manager, about what we could do with this 106 agreement. And somebody suggested, wouldn't it be great if we could really upgrade all the facilities in the welfare for the workforce? And two ideas immediately sprung to mind. One was to have a barber's, and the other one was to have a little gym as well on one of the areas on the project. And initially there were some frowns and some concerns, obviously, around what do you mean a barber's shop? And we said, well, how hard can it be? We have a space. All we need is a countertop, a chair, power sockets, mirror, lighting, and then we just need a barber. So we went out to the local community, and there was a chap who was able to spend, a couple of days of his time training up an apprentice on the project. So for 2 days a week, we had a barber. And the upshot of that was that the feedback started to come through that this is really great, and people started to drift in, very, very uncertain at first, never seen a barber's on a project before, but within a couple of weeks, people were just sort of, you're bumping into people on the project saying, "I've just had my haircut." And what's great is that when you speak to your barber, you can get all your problems off your chest, and they just listen. Yep. And we thought, what a great way of just adding to somebody's day at work by and that experience of giving something back to the men and women on the project. Very, very good.
And that's a win-win, because yourself at the weekend, you have to go to the barbers, you book an appointment, then there's a wait, but just to get it done, I mean, it was so win-win. But and just continue. We'll stay with you for a moment, Martin, and we'll come back to Maria. Is that your health and safety ethos is a little bit outside the box anyway, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
And so just tell us about some of the other things that were going on, in particular, if we're looking at, you know, improving the overall image of construction and what you thought about that. If we take maybe 4 or 5 minutes on that, Martin.
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, it sort of, we had, at the time in the business, we had a behavioral-based safety program, which had been put together and had been in place for a number of years. And it was called It's Your Life. And it was very much based on, it was incident-based. So it had a negative focus, essentially, in something has gone wrong. So it was keeping it very, very real and in perspective of what can happen in the worst case scenario in these different events. And it was asking people to call upon our code of conduct, which had some very prescribed behaviours. The groups that we used to hold these sessions with used to have to work out what behaviours may have prevented the incident. Now that had been going on for a very long time. So when I took over the role, I brought this experience, particularly from the Bishopsgate project, the 22 Bishopsgate project, but also pulled on some other work that had been going on previously in how we change the emphasis in any kind of program. And what I had was I had a sort of a few packages in front of me, if you like. So our committee had worked with an external provider to identify experiences that we wanted to give to the workforce, and they'd come up with 8 of them. And then there was this great big spreadsheet of how and when we should try and, you know, implement this and embed this across all of the different things we did every time we were in, you know, interfacing with people at various touch points. And I looked at this and thought, well, look, we've got all of these things, initiatives that we've been doing on our projects in Scotland and in London as well. If we just forget about that spreadsheet and just put the best of those together, surely we can deliver these 8 experiences to everybody that works with us and for us. So we started to build upon what is now what we call the One Life, One Team program, which is essentially is a very simple ethos. You only get one life. And, you know, we want everybody on our projects to be a community, so one team of people. And the One Life piece is about maximizing everybody's enjoyment while they're at work, which brings a number of positive outcomes. It delivers greater efficiency, greater collaboration, team working. You know, it makes people, you know, feel better, and they can trust us and we can trust them, and we build this rapport and this relationship where people can genuinely enjoy coming to one of our projects, because we want to make it the best experience we can in construction for them. Because it's a travesty that people can come to work and absolutely hate what they do or be treated badly, because there's, as with the whole catch the wave ethos, you know, no, there's on 2 fronts. You're not going to get positive output from that. And secondly, we must think about the future. Who are we going to attract in construction with its current legacy? And what do we need to do to change that legacy to a positive, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. No, and we'll touch a little bit more on this One Life, One Team initiative, and because it is a great initiative, and and from my perspective, using it and being part of your team, I can see what it does. So I think we should come back to it a little bit later, just to give the audience a little bit more of a feel of the amazing work it is. Maria, can I just come back a little bit with you, please, and talk about the sort of 2020 ESG strategy and some of the stuff that you were doing there as well, particularly about the Leave No One Behind and some of the stuff with the UN?
Sorry, a year and a half later, I'm still talking, being muted.
I do it every day.
Exactly, happens at least once a day. I wanted to add, now that you asked to leave no one behind, is like, if anyone watches the video launching our Leave No One Behind strategy, they'll see that the barber in 22 Bishopsgate was not a one-off. We've just had one as well in One Nine Elms.
And I use them every week.
There you go. So yeah, and yeah, I'd like to say he was. We got hold of him through an organization, a charity, and he was a refugee in the UK, and now he has a job on site, and definitely is one of my favorite parts of that video. But yeah, I'll focus on the question about Leave No One Behind. So Leave No One Behind is our social equity strategy. And as you know, Jimmy, our business purpose is to construct a better future. But how do we do that? in April 2021, we launched our decarbonization roadmap, 1 Decade to Act, which sets all the actions that we are going to take between now and 2030 to achieve net zero by 2050. However, as we transition to a zero carbon economy, we need to make sure that we leave no one behind. And for that, we need to empower our communities, promote labor rights, making sure we are paying a living wage. And so by caring about people and having our social equity strategy leave no one behind, we are setting the actions that we are going to undertake between now and 2030 to improve the working and built environment that we create. But we cannot do this alone. So this will involve advancing business practices and influencing clients, subcontractors, and ensure that our projects are all advancing social equity. But for this, social sustainability is featured very heavily in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And as a business, what we've done is do an assessment to identify which of those goals we can influence and make a difference on. And we found that there is 7 goals that are particularly relevant to the social commitments that we are focused on. Our social equity strategy addresses these goals by implementing action plans for each one of our core social equity pillars, which are health, safety, and well-being, led by Martin and his team, diversity, inclusion, and respect, led by HR, socioeconomic value, and respecting our communities. And these 2 are mostly led by the community engagement and social value team.
Brilliant. I mean, safe to say that yourself and Martin and the wider team will be working very, very close together to push this on. And just come back out of that a second again and go back into, excuse me, when we were talking earlier on, Martin, and I think this will all join up, is in terms of the initiatives that have been put in for that worker experience. And I know we put the barber in. What sort of real impact has that had in terms of you're creating your One Life Team program for the business?
I think it's, I'll recall a little story, if I may. We started as part of our pre-One Life, One Team program on the 22 Bishopsgate project. We decided as a leadership group on the project that it would be fantastic if we could hold a friends and family day, rather like an open day, on the project, where we would make the project, you know, safe for people to move around in without PPE, etc. And they bring their families. Anybody from the workforce is entitled to bring their family and come and walk around the project and be guided around the project by the project team. And you know, have the opportunity to sit in presentations about how, you know, the mechanical and electrical side works, how the structure works, which was fantastic, which was one of our construction directors using ski poles, which was very, very funny to explain how the tower, you know, stays upright. And it was a phenomenal day. And there was a real huge sense of community building there, where everybody got the chance to share in their collective pride as to what they were doing. You know, you weren't just, you know, the sparky, the electrician, you weren't just the steel fixer or the steel erector, you were part of the team that was sharing with their families what a magnificent structure you'd actually built, a fabulous building you're actually building. And there was a real buzz about the day. And the story is really all about this one piece of feedback. And it was an electrical supervisor who wrote us a note at the end of the day, which said, I've been in construction for over 30 years. I've never worked on a project that's been delivered like 22 Bishopsgate. I brought my daughter here with me today. And if at any time in the future she said she wanted to join Multiplex, she would have my full support. Thank you very much. And I was absolutely blown away. And I felt that this was a turning point, actually, that we were onto something, really onto something here. If we can deliver that level of, you know, of an experience to somebody who's been in the industry for so long and has seen so much over the course of that 30 years, as you can imagine, then we're really onto something. And that really is what spurred me on, you know, moving into this role to actually take One Life, One Team and just make it our program as a business. And it's incredibly powerful. And you know, to this day, I get a great sense of pride and happiness from walking around our projects and talking to people and seeing, you know, that they are, you know, that they are, you know, fulfilled. They are happy people. You know, they like being on the project. The feedback is that, you know, we are a people-focused builder. and that our management teams are very attentive, and the people are looked after on our project.
Absolutely. And can I just take this off on a tangent a little bit, Martin, back to Maria? I mean, I see it every day because, excuse me, because I'm one of your senior managers, so I can see it all. But Maria, how does this transpire? I mean, I worked with a fantastic Amy Dawson, you know, Lucy Wainwright. I mean, your team, you know, I met, is it Martin, one of your new managers in Scotland last week? Is it
Mark Henderson.
Martin, I mean, you know, that chap has got so much energy and really embraces it. How do you work with Martin in this then, so that you're both singing from the same song sheet under this One Life, One Team, and from your department as well? How does that all work together?
Yeah, I think obviously as we care about people, so there is an overlap between what we are trying to do from an ethical labor point of view and what you are doing from a health and safety point of view. Ultimately, what we want is people to have the best experience when they come to our sites, but also when they go home. So making sure that they are not being exploited in any way. They go to a place that is safe for them, comfortable, etc. So we have an ethical labor management system, which I would say is probably joint responsibility between the community engagement and social value team and the health and safety team. So there is a part of it which is working collaboratively on. So if I think of an example, is we have we do worker interviews. So we have one of our KPIs, which is doing a number of worker interviews in every site every month, just speaking to people and trying to identify any issues. If any issues do come up, those get logged into our system like any other type of incident, and there needs to be a full audit trail from an investigation to a closeout. This is something that one person cannot do by themselves, because there is multiple parts that feed into it. So between the community engagement and social value managers and the health and safety managers, we work together to engage the package managers, the project managers from the subcontractors, etc., to find out what is really happening. So I think the way to put it is like we are all working together towards one goal, which is making sure we are one life, one team, as Martin said.
Absolutely. And one of the things, I mean, a lot of people that know me, not within Multiplex, they probably think I'm bonkers in Multiplex, but from the wider, I always talk about, I must try to be as far away from this archetypal, you know, health and safety policeman is, and we're getting there. I mean, the words health and safety, we're changing. You, Martin, I know, honesty. One of your biggest things is about challenging, but with respect, and it's something that you care a lot about. There can be nothing more boring from a health and safety perspective to just go to work and just look at problems. From this catch the wave and what the stuff we're doing under the One Life, One Team, the great work that your team are doing as well, Maria, I see all this coming in very well together, because not only do I go to work and I look after people, and Multiplex is a people company, as we know, but I get the opportunity to work with your team, Maria, and reach out to the community and work with teenagers. And then I come to work. So this catch the wave, Multiplex, One Life, One Team, I don't know. It's quite freaky the way that we're embracing it, although we were embracing it before the catch the wave came out over the last few months. Is that, Martin, Maria, would you like to comment? I mean, I think that's my feeling.
I'll let you go, Martin.
Yeah, I think that with as Maria says, we have such a strong desire for people, and I must make mention of our leadership team and our managing director, Callum Tuckett, as well, who is, he has a word that he uses in every single meeting, and that is equitability. And that is, it has to be fair for all. If it's not fair for all, then we don't do it. And that's right down to our flexible working policies. We don't have a, manager bias versus operative bias. If it's good, it's good. What's good for managers is not good for the operatives. Everything is about equitability. If we can't do it for everybody, then we're not doing it at all. And I think that passion and that belief and that drive is shared by all of us. If you take, for example, the pandemic and the 23rd of March 2020, Callum was sitting by the phone at, after Boris Johnson's announcement of the first lockdown, and he was sitting by his phone saying, I've got to tell my team that I think that we should close our projects because it's not right to put 3,000 people on tube trains the next day. And he couldn't have been more surprised, because when he did that and called a conference call, all of us were aligned, and we all agreed the best thing to do and the only thing to do at that time was to shut the project so that people did not have to come to work and put themselves at risk until there was more clarity and we'd identified the risk management that we needed to put in place.
And that shows amazingly, doesn't it, Martin, that we are people. It's about people from the top
People
down.
first. People
Absolutely.
first, actually. Yeah.
Maria?
Yeah.
Yeah, what I probably will add to Martin is that I think in the past we used to look into this as silos: environmental on one side, community on one side, health and safety on one side. And it's not just that our strategy has evolved. I think how it is perceived has also evolved. So whereas a few years ago you could never hear about the term ESG, it would be like the minority. Now ESG is what everyone is talking about. It's a part, like every client asks to know what we are doing in terms of ESG. We ask our subcontractors what they are doing for ESG. So it's also an exercise that is not about ticking the box. Is about adding value, and we believe on it. And I think Martin and yourself said it, is like everyone in our teams is unreal how passionate they are about the job that they do, and that is what actually makes a difference. Is like you said it, Jimmy, is like there is nothing worse just to come to work to like face problems. It's like, but when you know you've made a difference to someone's life, or to even like how a process is being driven to deliver that value, then I think is where the difference comes from, and where the value and why we are all here.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe creating, dare I say it, better people for the future as well. You know, it's about reaching out and us leading. We've got to continue to lead. And I'm now talking me as in Multiplex, to be part of this amazing team and continue to strive for what we do. Now, we've got one more question left. I'm going to come to you first, Martin, and then to you, Maria. So we've talked about where we've come from, and what I'd like to ask now are, what are your plans now, Matt? I mean, golly, probably I've heard those plans, but how do you plan to continue ensuring Multiplex is socially sustainable, and how will you measure this? So I'll come to you, Martin, and if we can maybe talks 2 minutes each.
Yeah, sure. I'll keep it as brief as I can, Jimmy, as you know me. I think the first thing to say is that I'm spurred on by feedback that I've had more recently in a supply chain conference, where one of our suppliers, his son came up to see me after I'd spoken about what we were doing, and he's in his early 20s. He's a supervisor on a major project in London, not for Multiplex, but for another builder. And he came up to me and he said, if my friends and guys and girls who aren't in construction at the moment hear you speak about how you want to treat people in construction, then they'll come here. They'll come to construction. That is my mandate for the future, Jimmy. Essentially, is that we have to keep doing this in a way which catches the attention of the youngsters who are looking for a career, who are worried about construction, who can see, you know, the poor legacy of the past, with all of those occupational health issues that have manifested in perhaps their parents or grandparents over the years, and they've been warned, stay as far away from construction as you can, son, you know, or whatever they may have said. We have to now put, you know, shoulder to the wheel to make sure that this program actually generates momentum. And one of the ways to answer your question that we're going to do that is we're going to use a lot of leading indicators around this. It's still very much in its infancy in terms of what we're doing. But if you look at all of the elements where we've got our engaged people, you know, the quality and standard of our workspaces, the quality of our engagement program, delivering those experiences, how we manage critical risks by collaboration, and those tools that you're aware of in terms of videoing the task and getting the workforce to talk about what they're seeing collaboratively. All of those things, we can pull metrics from that. We can pull, you know, real, positive indicators from that will allow us to, you know, measure in a very real way, from feedback particularly, how we're doing and where we need to go next. It's very exciting, very, very exciting.
Brilliant, and that's very much in line. I believe, you know, from what Maria was talking about earlier on about the leave no one behind, that
Absolutely.
strategy as well. Yeah. So come to you now, Maria. I mean, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll probably second what Martin has just said about data. So you can't manage what you don't measure. So it's like there is, if you read our social equity strategy, which I'm sure, Jimmy, you have, but for everybody else, you see there is a lot of targets in there, and we need to make sure that we have a system in place to capture that. And then to actually report transparently how we are performing against those. Some of those targets are very ambitious. Yeah. I mean, if we fall short in any place, I'm sure we will have lessons learned, and being absolutely transparent, reporting and disclosing that information, I think is going to be of help, not just for us, but for the whole industry. And then I think as well, as Martin said, I think as part of the work that the social value and community engagement team are doing, like with the schools, colleges, etc., making construction an appealing industry for young people is very important, but also attracting different people. So diversity in teams, bringing different perspectives, adds an incredible value to the team. So it's like, I'm pretty sure that despite Martin and I have been working in Multiplex for 6, 8 years, it's like our views, because of our backgrounds and all the experiences that we have gone through, me being a female brought up in Spain, moving to the UK, Martin having worked in different companies, the army, etc., is like, all that is bringing value to like what we do in our day-to-day job. Absolutely. So absolutely pushing for that diversity in construction and making sure that more people continues to join us is key.
Yeah, I said this to someone the other day there about my love for construction, because for me, this is just Jimmy Quinn talking here. It has the same mentality as a forces mentality in terms of the teamwork, people looking after each other, learning, collaborating with each other, and that's why I love it. And you know, my 2 sons, Maria, you probably won't know, but Cameron started with Multiplex in the Middle East in the lifting team. He now works as the head of logistics for WS. No, not the head. He's a logistics manager working to the head of logistics for WSV in Saudi. And Macaulay is learning his trade from the ground up, working for O'Neill and Brennan on the 19Els project. And shortly starts his MSc in health and safety in October. So there is a future there for young people coming into construction as well. I really love hearing the plans that you have and knowing, Martin, as I do, how those plans will evolve. I'd just like to give you a minute or so each just to tell me what your thoughts are from Martin Wilshire and Maria Cachafeiro. What your thoughts are for the next 12 months?
My thoughts are very much around the positivity that the Catch the Wave initiative has brought about. When I first read the white paper, I got very excited because I thought, thank goodness, you know, we're not, we're not doing this in isolation. This is a movement. You know, this is a movement that's really happening, and what we're doing is it confirmed that everything we were doing was not pie in the sky, as it were. It's real, it's tangible, and it delivers, you know, real huge benefits to business productivity, efficiency, and getting the best out of people and giving people the best experience. And for me, the next 12 months is really all about just building on the foundation. Like I said, it's very embryonic at the moment. We've got it across all projects. We now got to do the education piece, you know, much more broadly in terms of, I would like everybody to be able to recognize the benefits that it will bring, and we'll do some real engagement and collaboration with everybody around that in the next 12 months.
Thank you, Martin. Maria?
And for me, I would say we have the plans, so we have our social equity strategy. I think it's now the time to deliver on them. I mean, the easy part is to come up with the research, the data, set out the targets, but then we actually now need to implement the changes to make sure we deliver on those targets. And part of that is challenging the norm. I think we've been doing it for years, but we have to still continue challenging how things have been doing traditionally, driving change. And in all honesty, I look forward to seeing where we are in 12 months and how much we've delivered.
No, and that's absolutely. Did you want to add something, Martin?
No.
And I just think, you know, from my perspective, from the top down, from our outstanding managing director, Callum, down to everyone that collaborates within the team, I'm a little bit selfish here because I couldn't think of 2 better people to come on and speak to us today about Multiplex being a people organisation, putting people first, the amazing plans you both have that will really collaborate with IOSH in terms of the Catch the Wave. Like you said, Martin, it's embryonic, but we've been doing it for a long time, and we're going to continue doing it, and it's now sitting side by side. So to both of you, and from the IOSH membership, thank you so much for your time and taking time out of your absolute busy days today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jimmy. Very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. So that was Maria and Martin. Thank you so much for your time today. Wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, stay well, and please continue to be kind. Thank you all.